style hyperlinks. I have a simple page here. I have 3 hyperlinks that just go into other websites, Google, YouTube, Live Nation. I made it about a band. It covers all the stuff we've done so far as divs, as far as padding, as far as margins. We want to be able to style the hyperlinks, make them more decorative, because if we put them in their basic form, they look like this. They're blue, and then if you click on them, they turn purple. So it's pretty old-fashioned looking. There's no style to it. So what I do is we want to do a bunch of things to them with CSS that will give them style. So to kind of give a brief, well, to kind of just jumpstart this, a few things I did here that you'll have to do. I put another div in the web page. So you guys don't have this yet. You guys have what your div is called top bar. You have the left bar div, and then you have content div. What I did was I put another div above the content div, and I called it nav bar. And if you see what's inside of there, it's just a list. It's an unordered list. Excuse me, an unordered list. And you know, we use the UL tag for that. We use the LI tags for each list item. And when you do it like this, each list item is a hyperlink. So these are my 3 hyperlinks. So this is the HTML component. So just take a glimpse of that. That's what you have to do. You're going to have to add a new div to create space, to create a section on your page that's going to hold your nav bar. And we're doing a horizontal nav bar, meaning the links will be side to side. Before we apply CSS, they're just on top of each other because it's a list, and you can see the bullets over here. This is all going to disappear. So let's cut to the styles, what we have to do one by one. Let's see over here. Okay, so I have all my styles. And again, for the navbar div, you know, I gave it dimensions. I made it very short. I only made it 30 pixels tall. Keep that in mind because when I style the links, I'm going to use that number because I want them to fill out the navbar. So starting with a few styles. I have another style sheet that's actually complete here that I'm going to be pulling stuff off of. So we have an unordered list. So unordered list is the UL tag. Look at some attributes in here. List style type. We remember that because that was what we used when we wanted to do like Roman numerals or different symbols. And we're going to use that for this also. What we're going to do is we're going to say none. By saying none, that's going to get rid of the bullets. If you look underneath it, what I did was I put some pseudocode. Pseudocode is just comments. I dropped that here and there just so it makes a little more sense. Lists have built-in margins and padding. We need to get rid of that. So what we do is we set the margins to 0 or margin to 0. We set padding to 0. So for your UL tag, you want these 3 attributes. You want to set list style type to none, and you want to set margin and padding to 0. So I'm going to add that in. So I'm going to copy it out of my lesson style sheet and paste it into my real style sheet. I'm just going to paste them on top. Okay, so there's my UL tag with those 3 attributes. Let's save it. Let's go to our page, refresh it. You should see these bullets go away. Okay, and you see it also got a little shorter because we got rid of the margins and the padding. If you remember from the class lessons, margins and padding actually add size to our div. So that gets rid of that. Okay, now if we go back to the style sheet for the lessons, the next one is the LI tag. We know that for making lists that the LI tag stands for list item, and the LI tags go within the UL tags, right? So every you know, in the past, if you want every bullet you wanted, every bulleted item you wanted, you would use another LI tag. So this is what we're going to do to actually change this from a vertical navigation bar where they're on top of each other, where the links are on top of each other, to a side-by-side navigation bar. What we're going to do is we're going to float each one of these links. Each one of these links is in an LI tag. So by floating each LI tag, we're actually going to get them to go left because we're going to float them left. And don't forget, the float does 2 things. It'll move it to where you want on the page, but it also allows whatever comes after it to come right up alongside of it rather than forcing it underneath. So when we float all these, it's going to override the default nature of the list that kind of, you know, stacks one element on top of the other. So let's cut that out. Let me copy that out and put it on my actual style sheet. So I'll put it underneath the UL tag up here. Okay, so we just floated the list items. We floated them left. So let's save that and let's see what that does. So this should go from a vertical stacked link set up to a horizontal link bar. Let's see. Okay. So the float, again, it moved everything to the left because we floated it left, but it also allowed each link to come up alongside the link before it. Moving along. Let's see. Okay, the next one has a lot of stuff. Just take a look at some of this. This is some more pseudocode I put in there. They're comments. So what I said was we display each link as a block. What it does is it's going to let the link occupy the entire height of the div. So we set the div to 30 pixels. So by setting the anchor tag to a block, what it's going to do is it's going to technically take up all that space, and you'll see why later. It's really for when we put our mouse over it and we want the background to change. So we accomplish that by using display block. So the attribute is display, the value is block. The width, and don't forget, these are all to the A tag. So these are all to the actual hyperlinks themselves. What we want to do is we want to even the width out. If you look at the page, they're all jammed together. So what we could do is if we assign a width in pixels to each one of these, we could find the number. And in this case, for messing around with it before, I found that 90 was a pretty decent number. So if we make each link that sits in its own block, if we make each one 90 pixels wide, that's enough to kind of create a bit of space between each one of them that looks pretty good. So that's what that is. The color is simply the text color. So I didn't apply it yet, but that'll change the text color. The text align is center. With that, now what you guys will see is how each link is actually sitting in like a box now. You'll see that when we once we put all these styles in. So all the text align is doing is just putting the text in the middle of that box. For text decoration is none. That means, you know, there's no underline, there's no strike, there's no anything special. You could change all that if you want. You know, you can look on like W3 Schools. The line height, again, I want it to take up the entire height of the div. I made the div 30 pixels, and I want the links to take up 30 pixels. I just chose the font style that I want, and I chose the font size that I want. Again, as far as the numbers go, you have to mess with them sometimes. So this is what I did after a little fiddling. So let me take all of these. Obviously the A link, the anchor link, gets all, you know, the majority of the styles. Let me actually put it on the style sheet. So I'll paste this after the list items. Little space there. Let's save it. Let's see what this does. So I'm going to refresh it. You should see a bunch of space pop in between the links. You should see the size open up a little bit too. All right, so that made a big difference. So that was my color that I chose. The 30 pixels is the space. You don't see a block yet. You don't see them light up. So once you see them light up, once we do a few more styles, you'll understand what it means to display as a block. But so far, we do have them aligned in the center of each one of their blocks, and there's enough space between them. Each link, you know, they're not totally symmetrical because obviously Google is fewer letters than like YouTube or Live Nation. So you're looking for something that just kind of works as best as possible. Let's keep moving. This is called a pseudo class. You can see it's an A link. So it's still the anchor tag. It's a style for the anchor tag, colon hover. There's several several pseudo classes. The one we want to do is hover, and this is kind of cool because when you put the mouse over the link, it'll change, and you can make it change into whatever you want. You could change the size of it. You could change the font color. You could have the background light up, which is what I want to try and do with this. If you look at the two styles I put on here, first one is I changed the background color. So in other words, when you hover with your mouse over the link, the background color is going to change, and I just have a hexadecimal value for that. The second style is text decoration. That's also going to underline the link when I put my mouse over it. You have lots and lots of options for things like text decoration. So you can check all that out. You know, you can look on W3 Schools, you can search on Google, and you can find all the options for that. So let me put these two on here. This is what's going to, again, make it do something when I put the mouse over these links. So I don't want to actually paste it there. I'll paste it after my A styles. Let me just get rid of some of the space. Okay, so again, it's the anchor tag and it's a pseudo class hover. So in other words, when you hover over the anchor tag, that's how to look at that. And I'm having two things happen. I'm applying two styles to it when I hover over the anchor tag. Let me save it. Check what the difference. So right now, nothing happens. If I hit F5 to refresh it, now when I put my mouse over it, Now my background lights up. It's a very bright background color. I should probably pick something that's a little bit less light, but if you could see, there's also an underline there. So what I would do if I was messing with this is I would definitely go with like a darker shade. This is more or less a black background that I put to the nav bar div. So if I even, to stick in the color combinations, if I even went with like something slightly purplish, something that didn't wash out the letters the way this is washing out. But you still get the point. And this is also the block level element deal here, where we put display as block. You can see they're blocks. When I put my mouse over them, they're blocks. They're taking up the full space in that div when you put your mouse over them, and that's what you want them to do. That's it. So do that, and you will have a styled nav bar.